Alright, time for the next mission while decking again, new gear.
The pure ones don't stand a chance.
The Gauxian Brothers Retreat. I guess that counts for a chapter. Mostly basically your snow level.
Alright.
Ooh. Race to the retreat.
Yeah, it's only the first one, but
Past
first
the
the
ice
description.
narrows in the Everwinter Sea, amongst blue-white bergs gleaming brilliantly, lies a frigid land of warriors brave, shedding senseless blood on frozen wave. Others, choosing a life of contemplation, seek wisdom in the icy desolation. Northern contrasts are stunning.
So what's your
and sharp,
favorite level in this
like
game,
black
Tio?
razor talons
I
plucking
gotta
the
say
silver
probably
heart.
the last one since it's
from a
it offers
gazetteer
since
of
it's
the
climactic
Kingdoms
and allows you to
by
do every
Liza
kind of
Peel.
shit. So
I think I see the
Nice.
Gauxian Brotherhood retreat up there in the distance. I'll be glad to get out of this
So this is
freezing
all
wind.
happening while the events of the movie are happening,
Yes,
right?
My
Yes.
ancestor, Strix Caraldo, once stayed aloft through an entire night and a day from Keel Bay to the Ice Talons.
from what I remember,
wonderful.
from what I get, they're referencing actual stuff that
Are
happened in
you
the
trying
book.
to say I'm holding
No,
us
don't
up?
you see?
I reckon I
He
could reach the
managed to do
retreat
the
before
castle
you,
run in
if
about
I had
10
a mind to.
parsecs. He's
Yeah.
that
Is
awesome.
that a challenge? Well, if you promise to remain quiet the rest of the way, you're on.
The pure ones are going to extreme lengths to collect these little metallic bits called flax.
Yeah, remember they do
But
that in the
why?
movie, the
Our
magnets.
ignorance is our weakness. Perhaps the Gauxian Brotherhood in the north might shed some light on the situation.
All right, let's do it. Basically, it's like that side mission that they show in the first part. The side,
Think you can beat me, sir?
go through the rings, and at the same time you're supposed to beat your rival, Bendy's King's character.
Weird. I don't recall our character ever having red-tipped feathers before. Maybe
It's
it's
the
just
lighting.
the lighting.
Yeah, it's just the lighting. Don't worry.
Behind in flight class again, Shard.
What's with bird characters in video game being assholes? I don't understand. It's
I like to flip the bird, I guess.
it's not even like a thing. Like birds are assholes by nature. That's usually cats more than anything. Like what do you with the characters like Falco Lombardi, that instead that Guardian in Breath of the Wild, particularly one of the ancestors, like this case, even another certain character in Deltarune as of Chapter 2.
Deltarune Chapter 2. What a lovely fever dream that is.
Also, as you can see, like I said, there is a decent margin for you to miss actually rings. So again, this kind of mission is very chillaxing. Of course, if you want to get the best score, you're incentivized to not actually, miss any. But, this is something that you can easily get with enough practice anyway. Again, it's very useful towards the target audience for this kind of game,
Yeah,
Easy
and
to
again-
learn, relatively hard to master.
And like you said, honestly, in terms of licensed games, this is definitely one of the better ones.
It's a shame that, again, because the property in itself was so obscure even when it came out, this probably got ignored as a result.
It is a bit of a shame.
It still showcased the fact that Warner Bros. Wanted to go through length because it was still around the time where licensed games were
Yes,
have to
it was
tie in.
very safe to have a race
Well-
where ice glaciers are collapsing. Sorry, back to you.
It was sorry, man, got fucked up a bit. It was common to expect a tie-in, an actual tie-in game to a release. So again, it's probably something that we'll never see again. This kind of thing, or at least not in big quantity, or at the very least.
That is a thing, honestly. Like at some point, licensed tying games, more
Just
or less,
stopped.
yeah. I mean, like, well, they didn't completely stop. We do still get some nowadays, but
Not necessarily.
yeah.
Usually at best they tend to be like AA, done by a small company, like say Microids for like a French, or Canadian movie. They usually tend to do that.
The choir suggests that this
I
is
knew you would
important.
Again, clear inspiration from Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings.
Still talking. Now, let's see what we can find out about Flex.
Upon
All right, time for more
Gauxian
lore.
Brotherhood retreat. Shard's hopes were dashed to discover what he sought was not to be found there.
Knowledge of these flicks was lost when Perrock fell.
But as Shard turned, ready to depart the retreat, the monk took pause, then continued.
There is, however, an elderly hermit named Cormac, who dwells in some old ruins not far from here. He once studied at Perrock and might be convinced to help you. But be watchful. A group of monks went to visit him weeks ago, and when they did not return, a few of our younger brethren left to investigate. Neither group has been heard from, and high winds at this time of the year have hampered our search efforts.
Shard pledged to do all he could.
House of the derisive laughter. Okay.
I don't get it, but okay.
Again, probably a reference to something.
I'll need you to travel to the ruins and check on their situation.
The reference is clearly lost on us.
It was very more popular at the time, and it's probably just something that, you know, again, it's just lost on us. But
That's strange. There's a group of bats flying in the same direction.
that's this kind of climate,
And they're
time to
carrying
follow
some
them.
sort of bundle.
But I will just say this. Okay, it's probably easy to assume that the mass inflation of tie-in license game halted or outright stopped because you know, game development costs became too high as with the new generations and everything. So advanced companies relied on, you know, stuff that might have been a tie-in but only on a distant kind of thing, let's say the Mad Max kind of game that was around the time Fury Road was made. Or like, say, the Terminator. No, the Terminator game was in development hell for a lot, so it wasn't even to coincide with the release of, you know, Dark Fate.
How about the Godzilla PS4 game?
Okay, sure, it was done around the same time of the first Legendary movie. I guess we even have, you know, Godzilla 2014 as a character in it, but still, you get my point. It's not. These days, it's almost never a direct tie-in, but something with the property on a, you know, more like a generic kind of scale, which it's fine by me, because at least, you know, it's still a licensed game technically for the property, and as long as the game is actually good, I don't really have a problem with it. But it's never clearly on the same level as it was when, you know, these kind of things happen. And again, it's both a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's kind of sad to not see, you know, that much happening on this point, but at the same time we have to remember that most of these games were not good in quality, were always rushed, a lot of times were their studio killers, you know, and they costed $60 to be bought, you know.
It's like one of those things where when you think back to it, you kind of do miss them, but when you actually do go back and revisit how it was back then, it's like, you're not completely surprised that it died out here and there.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like, you know, it's like with a game like Apollo Justice. You like to think of the ideas here, but when you actually play the game, not as enjoyable.
Not to mention what it does to certain characters, specifically females.
Again, like, I think I do get why people can speak fondly of Apollo Justice. Like, well, the ideas are good there, and again, some of the stuff is interesting. The problem, of course, lies in the execution, and when you really get down to it, the main thing of value from that game are like cases 1 and 4, and 1's the only real good one of the two.
Wait.
4... What?
Wait, 4? Isn't that Serenade?
No, that's free.
No.
Okay,
Serenade
okay.
is
Sorry.
free. Oh God.
Well,
no.
I don't play that game often
look
for
at
obvious
that.
reasons.
New enemy type, actually. I think you're about to mention.
Hagsfiends will make short work of it.
Yeah, the Hagsfiend. These are basically crow witches, for lack of a better term.
Huh. So they're
Again,
so
you
there's
know
what?
These actually were in the book, but the movie actually completely omitted them. They're basically a faction that is working with pure ones. They do not seem to have an agenda of their own, but they just seem to be, you know, an extra ally, which for a game like this actually work just well enough.
so basically they're the twin role though.
It does.
Sorry, can you repeat that,
Kinda.
Pedro?
So they're basically the twin Rova sisters of this game, basically.
Kinda. Keep in mind, they're like the name of a faction. It's not like just two people, two
So they're more like the
simple.
Gerudo.
Yeah, pretty much. Also, you cannot actually use your triangle move against them, the bashing moves, because they always repel it, even the trade-off being they do not have any armor to speak of. So whenever you target one of them, it's best to not use it, because if you actually do, you will get repelled, and not inflict actually any damage.
But yeah, give this game credit. It does seem to build off the lore and build it up well.
A bit better than the movie at the very least. I've enjoyed the movie for what it was. I still have to read the books, mind you. But I have to admit, this game does provide a bit more than the movie did.
Honestly, I do feel like, we could maybe get a new era of tie-in games that are just, not crap, please.
But to be fair, we have seen some things, okay, not necessarily just tie-in, but more like, strictly licensed properties with stuff like, what Insomniac is doing to Marvel games for the time being. At the very least, we'll have to see how both Spider-Man 2 and Gold Rain turn out to be.
I'm talking strictly about tie-in stuff. Now, licensed material is more like the broad sense of it. Like, licensed stuff never really did die out. There was still plenty of that. I'm talking about, like, the tie-ins to the movies and the comics. And,
like I mentioned in our MCU tie-in run, small run. It was kind of a shame that games, movies like Doctor Strange and Black Panther did not receive the tie-in video games, because they have clearly the potential to do something about it. Even to this day, even if they're like separate on their own, there is potential even with the standards of modern games, like say an open world kind of game where T'Challa is to capture territories, like in the middle of the African jungle, or a Doctor Strange kind of like say third-person shooter, like where every spell is basically a new type of projectile that you've learned, similar to the later Harry Potter games.
Maybe maybe one day we can potentially get Sucker Punch to make a Doctor Strange game. That would be cool.
Have you missed anything?
We're fighting a new enemy type, Glibs, called the Hagsfiend. Essentially, basically ravens with magical powers, kind of their own. They constantly repel your triangle headbutt, so you need to be careful when tackling them.
And they seem to be all female, like the Gerudos.
Yeah.
So any reason why you think Sucker Punch in particular, Pedro?
Because they made the Infamous series, so they have experience with superhero type games.
Especially ones with that are mostly projectile based. They did actually listen to complaints and help more with CQC stuff for Infamous 2, and to an extent the Second Son, but the Infamous game is always mostly being relied on projectiles and slack platforming at the very least. More like parkour over big cities. Although again, I mentioned this somewhere else, it kind of always felt weird how the first two games were set in fictional cities equivalent, New York clone and New Orleans clone, but the third game, Second Son, is strictly set in, Seattle. Just straight up Seattle. Again, it just felt a bit odd.
You don't say.
Alright.
What in Glauc's name were those horrid things?
I don't know, but they definitely took pleasure in trying to hurt us. We should keep moving. There may be more of them around.
And there's no time to waste.
No time to waste. No time to waste.
Again, another thing, the timing of which you have to complete the missions is usually very generous.
Did someone make a techno remix of that bit?
Yes.
Yes. Complete with Lex Luthor
That old
laughing.
owl. He looks injured.
It could be a trap.
It's the young monks that need your help. The Hagsfiends have taken them back to what used to be my
Owl
home.
monks,
I
of
just
course.
escaped from there.
You must be Cormac. What exactly are Hagsfiends?
Hideous crossbreeds of owls and crows, or so we believe.
They literally
But that's not
created
important
a
right now.
giant electrical field.
Please,
We
you
have
have to
straight up
rescue them.
magic in this universe now.
It appears the situation is far worse than we had thought.
Is that a
I
thing
can
from the book,
barely
Tio?
believe
Yeah, it
but
seems to
these
be.
creatures
Again,
may be the
it's something that
Hagsfiend
the original
returned.
movie
I
also
fear
did
that
showcase,
Cormac
but
and
it's
our
pretty much
brethren
clear
are
that
in
this
their
franchise,
clutches.
you
Find
know,
them and rescue
is a
them,
fantasy in
young
its
guardian.
roots, you know, and has only some rules radicated in realism.
Well, to be fair, the movie never really had blatant magic. Like at most, when they got hypnotized, that was just the way
They treated the magnets like they were magic, even though the audience, could clearly see what they were, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, so the
exactly,
book
like-
had more supernatural stuff like this, the Hagsfiend.
Like it had actual supernatural stuff and not just the animals perceiving it as supernatural.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, I mean, in the movie, there was nothing blatantly supernatural, and most of the stuff that could be explained by, you know, everyday stuff for us, but it was magical to the owls. Again, similar to what the Warriors series does with cats.
And again, keep in mind the ouch.
From the cage
Yes,
carriers.
keep in mind though, again, this is still a universe where the owls do manage to actually perform metallurgy effectively of their own. So,
Yeah. Again, it's one thing I've always wondered, like, well, are there even humans in this universe, or is it
again,
completely
I think I
a
mentioned this in the
mystical
first
world?
part. I think that's the fascinating thing because of the fact that no humans show up and the fact that the locales seem to be pretty empty. For all we know, this could be set in a time where humans are not still prevalent or exist at all. Considering again the accents of obviously this takes place in the
Australia.
the Australian island probably or New Zealand
We
at
must separate the
at
Hagsfiends from the
you know
cage
at worst. But again, the timing when it comes to civilization, it probably might be that it's an age where humans are not from. Then again, I might be completely wrong. It was just a thing that the movie decided to do because maybe in the later books we talk about humans and I just don't know about it. Again, it's a shame because this is a franchise more people should be talking about and know about. So
I guess to be fair, when a movie doesn't do as well.
no, that's
Well,
is
you know
true.
what? You know what?
Well, it's funny. I think I mentioned this in the first part, and yes, the Hagsfiend can also throw projectiles at you, actual magical projectiles at you. But well, it's funny. I think I mentioned it about because probably of the release of the Snyder Cut and is Army of the Dead, movie on Netflix. The movie of The Legend of the Guardians did started to get a bit of tractions because in order to celebrate the filmography of Zack Snyder like we kind of did,
There's another group of
other
Hagsfiends
people,
going for the
including
facility.
for some reason Cinema Sins actually did videos about that movie. Not much talking was obviously about this game, but mostly about the movie. So it did gain some slight more traction just because Zack Snyder's name was attached to it in order to celebrate for his whole filmography, but not much more than that. I actually hope we get a Dominic Noble video about this because I'm actually curious to see other stuff that was cut out or reworked entirely.
I was actually about to ask, how popular was the book series? Now, okay, look, something like Harry Potter, Artemis Fowl, or Percy Jackson, that one had a strong enough reader base that even if the movie did
It wasn't
fail,
even that, Jova. For Harry Potter, it was pretty clear that the movies were done not too long after the books came out, so there was like a cross-media franchise plan from the get-go. For this one, I think the book existed for a while, and the rights had been in not negotiation, but we wanted to do something for a while. I'll check in the meantime.
Well, my main point is like, well, book series like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, or Artemis Fowl, those are big enough that even if their movie adaptations, were terrible, there'd probably still be enough people for the book alone for that series to remain relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you say that is the case with Legends of the Guardians, or would you say that, well, that was a case where, well, okay, there was still a fan base, but it wasn't as big as, say, something like Artemis Fowl?
First of all, let me see the timestamp. The books were actually published between 2003 and 2013, actually.
Huh, so in that case, that would mean that the series was still going on when the first movie was made.
Let me see if I mentioned the reception.
Go back to your little tree now.
Ah. No, okay, it doesn't mention here the receptions, you know, the general popularity of the book. But let me see in development of the movie, how long it took to make. There we go. Warner Bros. Acquired the rights to produce a computer-animated film of the book series Guardians of the Gaulle by Catherine Lasky in June 2005. Donald DeLine was set to produce the film, and Lasky was set to write the screenplay. In April 2008, Zack Snyder signed in as a director. Zari Nalbadian took over as producer, and the screenplay was by John Orloff and Emil Stern. Production began in Australia in February 2009. So, okay, they probably wanted to do the same thing with Harry Potter, because it was literally like 2 years since the first book.
So this may have been one of those cases where when the movie was made, they were banking on it being a success because
Again, unlike Disney, well, for the most part, mind you, Warner Bros. Seem to be more banking off licensed properties, more strict book, book adaptation licensed properties rather than original, live action movies. We've seen recently even with stuff like the new Dune, for example. So I get the idea why they might be scouting, potentially new decent material from like books for kids, teenagers, and so on, to see if they can produce a lucrative adaptation based on that.
Thank you, Guardian.
Honestly, so granted, I haven't read the book, so I don't know. I wonder if Legends of the Guardian, maybe that series is due for another try.
That being said, yeah, I can definitely see it working more also as a series, considering how lengthy it is. And again, probably something that the author might appreciate more, probably, if it's more, faithful to the source material. Because again, from what I checked, I did check both in the movie and this. Again, stuff got cut out or reworked, including the main villain of the movie. But
didn't they make it so that the main villain was the brother of the main character?
Yes. But the author, again, the aforementioned Catherine Lasky, is very prolific. Actually, this is not just the only thing that she wrote. She's mostly she's also a makeup writer. She even did some illustration picture books. Actually, a lot of them. Let's see. She's on standalone titles like The Night Journey, True North, I don't know that, and Blood Secret, and a couple of other side series like Bears of the Ice, The Deadliest, Wolves of the Beyond, the Royal Diaries. Interesting. Again, seems a prolific, prolific author. She was born actually in 1944. But yeah, again, it makes me curious to read the books, but again, to be fair, it might be more intimidating because it is actually I think it's 16 books in total. So it is a lot to go through technically, but I read the longer series anyway, so I might give it a try at some point. But anyway, yeah, this particular escort mission is actually far easier than the one you faced in Title, mostly because it's again you have a bigger margin when it comes to protect the monks that are actually captured by Hagsfiend. The only thing about it is that your wingmen never shut up about telling you to go there. It's the Sonic thing, like stuff with find the computer room,
That looks like a homing shot. Be careful, Sonic.
Basically kind of like that. I mean, it makes sense for your rival to Ben Diskin's character, but
oh, that's Ben Diskin playing.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the first part.
Whatever you say, sister.
What was Ben Diskin?
Number one in Kids Next Door, for example. Well, he has been done a lot of video games too, actually. Like I mentioned, he was like Jupistuki McGonnell in Rogue Galaxy, or Shigure. No, Shigure was the rival. The samurai, your samurai demon character in Tales of Berseria, which is actually kind of typical because he's normally used to do this kind of more, sleevely kind of voice, like you hear in this game or Kids Next Door. But for that game, his acting is much more natural, closer to his actual natural voice.
He's the voice of Mega Man.
There is a bit of a joke like moment where he actually does this kind of impression when he has to entertain a child character, with a bit of comedy. So there is that, but for the most part he has to act actually very naturally for that
Is
game.
Ben Diskin British or Australian?
I'm pretty sure it's just America. Let me see.
He's from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So I guess he has a knack for putting on those accents then.
Yeah, funny how he went from voicing an owl to what is the business.
Yes.
Funny how he went from an owl to Mega Man.
That being said, speaking of codename Kids Next Door, that also had a phenomenal video game based off of the series.
Didn't he have multiple ones?
I think so. I just remember the one called Operation Video Game. Played that as a kid. Loved the heck out of it.
I know
Had
that
a great
Cartoon
soundtrack too.
I know that Cartoon Network titles usually tend to have multiple, at least add multiple time games. The closest one we got actually was Samurai Jack Battle Through Time, which is kind of hilarious since it was clearly just a buttonhead title and more of a celebration of the franchise as a whole. And one of its major purposes was essentially adding a bit onto the ending of Season 5, but I'm not
And
gonna say
it's
more.
canon, thank Christ. But yeah, oh yeah, shoot. That means that technically that video game commentary will need to be a part of our Samurai Jack commentaries, won't it?
I mean, that would be nice, but again, Samurai Jack is one of those, counting also Season 5, Samurai Jack is one of those franchises where the series is very long, so...
I mean, really? It doesn't feel too long. Like,
Isn't
it
just
has
like
five
five seasons?
Five
Just...
seasons, each of them is like between...
13 episodes long. Well, except for Season 5, which is only 10 episodes long.
Alright then.
We have to bring down the pillars to set
Yeah,
them
now
free.
it's time to actually destroy the pillars of
The Hagsfiends have
magnetism.
been taking monks to mine in their Fleck facility. The time for peace has passed.
Peace was
We
never an
must rescue
option.
them. We need to get into the facility and take down those Fleck pillars.
You sure
Only
I didn't
then
write this
will
bit?
my brethren be free.
Don't worry, too. One day there will be peace. There will be a peace when when people admit so much that the governments will have no choice but to give it to them.
Okay. That's the thing about Superman 4. Because I watched all the Superman films with Pedro
Recently,
a
yeah.
few months ago. Okay, the ones with Christopher
There's
Reeve
always counting
and
on me to complete this
plus
mission.
Supergirl.
Go ahead.
Oh
And,
god, you
yes.
watched Supergirl.
Honestly, Joe, that movie's fun if you just watch it as a silly comedy, to be honest with you.
I was gonna say it's funny if you watch it as a porn movie, given all the suggestions.
That too, I will not admit that the implications can be funny too, but go on.
Just to let you know, there's a good
I saw it, don't worry.
Yeah, basically, here's what I think. Yeah, Superman 4 is not very good. And it is kind of interesting to me how Richard Lester is the more infamous director when he didn't direct what's considered by a lot of people the worst Superman movie.
Which is interesting because I consider 3 to be like because 4
can be very entertaining
like,
if you really don't like it.
if you go on Rip Tracks mode, 4 can be a blast. 3 is painful. Oh my god, it's so bad.
4, okay, yes, 4 looks like it was done with the budget of £2, and yes, it's pretty obvious. Milton Keynes is not in any way an analog from Metropolis at all.
You don't say, Dwibs.
But here's the thing. I mean, at least it has, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. It's got, Christopher Reeve. I mean, honest to God, try to get harder. I mean, he had to. The film was partly his idea.
And also
hey, you got Ducky from Pretty in Pink.
And as
remember, 4 had also a very troubled development cycle.
Yeah.
A lot of things were cut off, actually.
And yes, I know. And I'm not saying that Sidney Fury, the guy who did direct Superman 4, didn't have his own share of the blame. But to be fair to the guy, he was hamstrung by canon at the last minute.
Yeah.
I will say this. I do think like that Superman 4 is technically the worst Superman film, but it's a similar case to Batman and Robin. Yes, it is the worst, but that doesn't mean it's the most boring one.
That's the thing, Joe. I wish Superman 3 was just boring. Like, seriously, watch it again with a critical eye. That movie makes no sense. It's pain. It can be straight up painful because Richard Lester. So not Richard Lester. What's his name? Richard Pryor. But Richard Pryor is so annoyingly unfunny in that movie. It's painful. And yes, don't worry, Joe. I've seen his stand-up. I know that he's hilarious. Don't worry. Which is the fact that seriously, Joe, the material he's given in that movie is so bad. Oh my god.
That's the thing that he improved a few of his scenes, and he wasn't good at that either.
Also, let me explain briefly this. Much like in the movie, the flags, as in the magnets, you know, yeah, you're not really allowed to step in, otherwise you will be dizzied at the very least, you will have no control, and potentially you will start also losing health. So essentially, it's basically a gigantic area where you're not supposed to be there. Go on.
To be fair to Richard Pryor, Dwibs, in the case of the improv, I think that's more just a case that the direction wasn't doing him good, so he was trying to salvage it. I wouldn't say that he sucks at improv going off of that. It's more like he was trying to improve stuff, but there was only so much he could do. Like, look, just because people are good at improv doesn't mean that their improv is always
it just depends on the concept. Like if it's like inside a if it's like inside an arena and it's just him in front of like 20,000 people or something, then that'd be fine. But it was on a film set with like 50 people and they're scripted not to react to anything.
It's also the thing.
Yeah, so in that case, improv may have been constrained as far as we know. That being said, which would you say was Richard Pryor's worst movie and performance between that and The Wiz?
No, I'll take The Wiz any fucking day.
I mean,
wow, you actually take The Wiz over Superman 3. Damn.
Joba, like I've told you, watch that movie again with a critical eye. I dare you.
What do you mean?
I'm gonna be honest, even without that, even like I said, at the very least, if you disconnect your brain, Superman 4 can still be enjoyable to rip on.
No, that's what we said. That's what we said.
Okay,
yeah.
Joba, just to make sure I heard the question right, you're talking about Richard Pryor's performance in both movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think.
I'm
I'll
asking.
be honest. From what I've seen, I think he's a better stand-up comedian than he is an actor. But
okay, that's something. He has acted well in movies. It's just that you have definitely seen some of his worst movies he chose to be in. But what I was asking is like, which do you think is his worst performance and the worst movie he was in?
Superman 3.
I do not like the look
Wow.
of that coming.
Superman 3 is terrible. Like, I'm not even kidding. And a lot of people don't seem to throw a lot of shit at 4. No, 4, like Theo said, 4...
I mean, it deserves it.
Seriously, if you get drunk with a couple of friends, you can have a blast with 4. 3 doesn't even... There's no such escapism with 3, because 3's plot is so bad.
Alright,
go on.
Now we're about to have our second major boss fight against the leader of the Hagsfiend Queen.
You may have rescued my brethren, but unless the Hagsfiend Queen is defeated, the abductions will continue. And you can bet their next target will be the retreat itself.
So we need to defeat her here now. And
we must be especially wary
yes,
of the Hagsfiend.
also she has
she's utterly ferocious and supremely crafty.
and because of the fog,
Find my armor
and yes, she was voiced by Jennifer Hale.
Come, take a closer look.
No, thank you. Again, don't use the triangle move against her. Thankfully, if I recall correctly, the arena does have, I think, one brazier that you can use against her, but again, I forgot. But anyway, go on in the meantime.
To me, my favorite of that original series is actually the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, because
I actually haven't seen it. Like, does he change actually a lot?
It does actually.
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
It's the Snyder cut of its time too. It really is, and it's so much better. And unlike with Snyder cut, which I still think is kind of a mixed bag. Donner cut is such an undeniably better version of the movie, if you ask me, because all of the crappy comedy from Richard Lester is removed and replaced with actual, character development. you know.
Mine, there were a couple of bits that I thought were iffy in the Donner cut that was in that version as well. So I was like, wait, Donner had that in mind all along.
Well, that's the thing, Dwebs. Remember, you have to also understand, Dwebs, that, and we've talked about this, you have to use some of Richard Lester's footage to make his cut a coherent film.
There was no way. I meant, I'm pretty sure there was at least 1 or 2 scenes that I saw that were like Donner originally.
If you check the behind-the-scenes video of the Donner cut, he himself says that he doesn't, much like Snyder actually, when it comes to the Whedon cut. Actually, there's so many parallels with both situations that it's amazing. Just like with Snyder, Donner didn't really like what Richard Lester did with Superman 2, and he didn't really like looking at that footage. But he, unlike Snyder, who had the fortunate luck of having recorded everything. Who shot everything, so he didn't have to bother with any kind of Whedon's footage, fortunately. Donner actually, in order to make his footage a coherent film, he had to take some bits from the Lester cut, which of course is something that he didn't want to, but he had no choice because he wasn't able to shoot everything he wanted to shoot for that movie. So
it was 2006.
And like so with that movie, we also have to give it a grain of salt. They have to be give it a bit of slack because that movie obviously doesn't reflect 100% what Donner intended, but it's such a much.
It's the closest he could ever.
It was the closest we were ever gonna get, and it was such a cool thing to get because the overall storyline we still get is really good as well. Anyway,
which does make me pose the question, Jova. Again, if we ever commented on these classic Superman movies, when it comes to 2, what should we do? One particular cut or both? Oh, okay.
I demand both because it's kind of like with the Whedon cut. In order to properly appreciate the Snyder cut and the Donner cut, we really need to watch the original versions.
Sure.
Not only that, I don't hate the Lester version. Mind you, I have not seen the Donner cut, so maybe there's that. But I always thought that the Lester version was a fine movie in and of itself, too. Again, obviously, it probably pales in comparison to the Donner cuts, but, maybe it's because I didn't know about what tomfoolery was going on, but I liked Superman 2 still. Did it have some flaws? Yeah, but I still kind of found it a bit of an improvement over the first movie in some regards.
Also, Queen, I don't really appreciate your flirtatious nature. Thank you.
I thought the OG version just felt weird.
My problem with Superman 2, and you have to remember, Joe, a lot of the half of what you see in the Lester cut is from Donner. So hell, maybe those parts that you think are improvement are actually from the Donner footage, but
maybe.
But that's the thing, Joe. But I will argue, I don't know, Joe. But like the first movie did such a great job with the setup for Clark growing up in Texas and everything, and becoming Superman. It really is one of those cases where I just think there was so much more character development in the first movie in comparison to the Lester cut of the second one, and all that awesome character development that you see in Superman 1 is in the Donner cut. The same, you can tell it's the same vision, and it works so well for that because me and Liz were even kind of agreeing with each other after we got done watching both versions of the movie. We need to start a move. Me and Liz are going to start a movement called #Restore the Donnerverse.
So if I understand, if I understand correctly,
not to mention Christopher Reeve is still best Superman, live action wise, of course.
Of course. So if I understand correctly, the deal with the Lester cut is it's a more comedic one overall.
Richard Lester injected so much more comedy. It's like a certain other cut of a movie that I could mention right now, isn't it? Like seriously.
Justice League, Jesus Christ.
There's so much slapstick humor, and don't get me wrong, there's also some silly humor in the original Donner movie too, the first one. It's just that Lester takes what was funny and silly in the first movie and turns it up to 11. And so much of the cooler scenes, like for example, all of the Marlon Brando scenes from the Donner cut were removed. Sorry, for the record, Jova.
Okay.
Wait.
To be
Marlon
fair,
Brando shows up in the original.
Okay. To be fair, that wasn't Lester's fault.
I wasn't. That is true. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that. Basically, Marlon Brando was kind of being a prima donna at the time,
Marlon Brando being Marlon Brando, got it.
Yeah, basically. That being said, regardless of what was the reason, it doesn't change the fact that it was such a fucking crime to the audiences to see Marlon Brando's role in the second movie. Like it was.
It does sound like that was more a Marlon Brando problem.
It was, but still, it doesn't change the fact that it really is something that we were robbed of.
Hey, speaking of Marlon Brando...
Well, yeah, because Marlon Brando was an arsehole.
Yeah.
Speaking of Marlon Brando, I gotta show you guys the Island of Dr. Monroe. Well, the one starring Marlon Brando. Or the one that's so bad, there's a documentary about the development hell it took to make that, to the point where, okay, when we eventually do cover the Island of Dr. Monroe, I do have to request we also tackle the documentary attached to it, because you cannot speak about that film without going into...
What year was it made?
Let me check.
1996, potentially?
It was definitely in the 90s, but...
Yeah, 1996 with Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer. Oh.
Yeah, and I'll let you know, that was not the initial casting.
I would not have believed that victory had I not seen it with my own 2 eyes.
Yes, the fog gets broken by the dawn, of
by now I
course.
shouldn't be surprised. Come.
So yeah, I guess the queen is dead.
Mind you, the Hagsfiend still shows up for the final battle as reinforcement.
Back at the retreat, there was much to discuss.
To have been our fallen queen, I guess.
Hagsfiends working together with
Mass
Felix in the midst
hysteria.
of it all. The breadth of the Pure One's plans was broad indeed.
It must be the pure ones behind this.
Approached.
That was a fine bit of flying you did today, Shard. Your father would have been proud.
Oh.
When the shock had worn off the young owl's
But I thought we
face, he
hated his
continued.
father.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was there.
Maybe it's about time to learn the truth.
Don't believe the lies. He was vigilant and he fought bravely. But the
Classic type of story. Turns out your father was a hero, and he was not a coward. It's again very seen.
Yeah.
Again, there seems to be a mole in the Guardians. I wonder who that could be.
He discarded his battle claws here at this monastery, vowing never to take them up again. I attempted to follow his peaceful example, even opening a dialogue with the Hagsfiends who dwell in the...
In hindsight, it might have been a bad idea.
Tide of evil at work, and my efforts failed. It would seem the time for your father's idealism has not yet arrived.
Cormac produced a tarnished but magnificent...
So take
set
up
of
the talons.
Yeah, you can actually equip them. They're basically your ultimate gear.
And use them to restore
course.
the peace.
So yeah, cool story. But in the what will be in the next chapter, actually, the last one, also game. Thank you.
Cut.
Yeah. For the next chapter, the one that's the last of the game will actually be where the story catches up with the events of the movie and essentially have our original character, Do Not Steal, actually participate in the final battle. So there is that. It's just a thing of, again, this was happening on the sideline while the main character of the movie was doing his thing with his friends.
Gotta feel sorry for Shard because his victory is probably going to be overshadowed by the new kid on the block.
He's not a guy with... He just wants to be a guardian. He's not a guy that seeks a super glory or to be super popular with the others. He just wants to earn his place in the world. Basically, that's it. Anyway, tune in next time where we finish the game for the last chapter. Again, it's a very short game, technically. See ya.
See you then.
So, yeah.
Yeah.